DeCock, columnist, News and Observer, hanging out with us here at ACC Kickoff on the Heister Automotive Group Hotline. You know, it's funny. You and I were actually talking about this before we hit record. We don't always want to be that guy. And you do get to a point where the statement about Northwestern is the statement about Northwestern. You can be performative and ask a question at ACC Kickoff, but you're really not going to get any sort of answer beyond what he already said. So the only surprise to me was that they waited 30 minutes into the forum opening sequence to finally address it. I would have just have addressed it right out of the gate rather than everybody anticipating. And you could tell, I'm sure you picked up on it, everybody fell asleep. But the minute he said, hey, let's talk about something that's not ACC related, everybody perked up, and I started hearing the keyboards cackle.
That was very coincidentally, or slightly coincidentally, like seconds after I tweeted a picture of an elephant in a room.
I saw that. I saw that.
Because I was waiting for it to. No, I just said it's hard sometimes always being that guy, and I had a chance. I think there are legitimate questions to ask Jim Phillips that don't involve the specifics of the lawsuit regarding Northwestern, and I addressed some of those in my column today. I mean, I wanted to get ahead of that a little bit. So I wasn't writing what everybody else was writing today. But, the question one, and I, may have the chance to ask him this later today or tomorrow, and sort of in private, is being the subject of 2 and soon 3 lawsuits and maybe more, does that affect your ability to do your job as ACC commissioner? If I'm a president, if I'm Jim Clements or Kevin Guskowitz or Randy Woodson, that's a question I want answered. Mm-hmm. We're at a time of tremendous change in college athletics. The ACC commissioner, that's a 80-hour-a-week job right now. If you are spending 20 hours a week on the phone with your lawyer, then you can't give your full attention to the ACC. The other one is, even if you take Phillips entirely at face value, and I'm not saying necessarily you should. I'm just for, let's say he didn't know any of it was going on. Mm-hmm. They had no signs. He's totally unaware. He's as shocked as anyone, which may very well be true. It may not. You never know. We don't really never ever know people, which we talk about all the time with athletes. An athlete gets arrested. Oh, well, he seemed like such a nice guy. We don't really know.
We don't know any of these people.
Imagine what these couple weeks have been like for him. Everything you built is being destroyed. Mm-hmm. It's like finding out your spouse cheated on you day after day after day. The people that you trusted, turns out you couldn't trust. You built your entire reputation on building this culture and this program at Northwestern, and it turns out it was all a sham. You've been betrayed. You did not have good oversight of these programs, because that's the question it always comes back to. And I got into I don't know what the appropriate phrase is. Joe probably has one. Conversation about it with Debbie Yao about this after the Mark Gottfried stuff, mm-hmm. where I said, 80s always skate on this stuff. You have to take some responsibility. Ignorance is not a defense,
especially if culture is the constant talking point.
And that you look at the Power 5 commissioners. Greg Sankey's the power broker. Mm-hmm. Kliakov is a casino host. Pertetti or whatever this guy's name is at the Big Ten's a TV guy.
Yeah.
Who am I missing? Brett Yormark is a traveling salesman trying to sell you a broken vacuum cleaner.
Phillips is the last true believer.
He's the culture.
Yes.
He's the culture guy. He believes in it. 100%. Yes. That's what I wrote last year here when everyone thought his speech was out of touch or Pollyannish or whatever, naive. That this is his strength, is that he really does believe in this stuff.
So if you believe in that stuff, then why is there a culture at Northwestern that people were in fear to do anything if the culture is about the student well-being?
100%.
And all these things are going to play out. And again, we don't know how these things are going to play out, who knew what when. But when the lawsuits keep piling up, I guess, Joe, this would be the question that I would wonder. I don't know the answer to. At some point, the ACC presidents are not going to want the association, and that's ultimately who decides this, not Jim Phillips.
Yeah, we all make choices.
Yes.
Right? And it's funny because Luke is very similar to our mentor, Colton Tudor, in the sense that Tudor never took it upon himself to say, you need to fire Carl Torbush. Mm-hmm. Right? He never would ever write that. Luke's not going to sit here and write, you need to fire Bill Peters. Like, it's obvious. Right?
I think I did. Right? But, I mean, Bill Peters, I think I wrote that we need to string him up by his heels and hit him with a switch.
At some point, you're adding a context to it. You're adding a nuance to it. You're adding an explanation. Like, here are the choices that you're making, mm-hmm. right? And I think of this when we could specifically put this to a performance-only issue after NC State lost to ECU in 2016. You didn't write, NC State needs to fire Dave Doran. You wrote, okay, this might be who you are. This might be who you are. Mm-hmm. And if you're okay with that choice, make that choice. If you're the ACC and you're the presidents, I saw enough last year to say, you made the wrong hire.
Yeah.
Okay? This is not the guy who's going to take you into what the future of college sports is going to be. And the question that you asked about, okay, what happens when you lose in court?
Because you're going to lose
and
in
they
court.
are employees.
Yeah.
Those are the kind of things, like, you can't just sit here. And yes, I appreciate and I actually admire the conviction with which he has, and he believes in the student-athlete model. I do. I think it's dead wrong, but I respect his conviction. But at some point, as a conference, as an entity, you have to look at this and go, what is putting us in the best position in the year of our Lord 2023? And I don't think that type of mindset is what's going to put you in the best position.
And to that point, when he's absolutely right. He said, one of our presidents said it best. Are we chasing money or are we chasing success?
Right.
And no league is more successful than we are across the board. That's true. It's very true. And I don't think the ACC gets enough credit for that. But that's with a $15 million revenue gap. What's that going to look like when it's 50?
Yeah.
That's why I'm the first guy to tell you the money's not everything, and that college athletics, when university presidents were like Bill Friday and that everyone's best interest in mind, blah, blah, blah. Now they're all used car salesmen. The only way to become a president is to be a fundraiser.
Yep. Right.
And these guys are going to squeeze every last nickel out of college athletics until there's nothing left, because all they know how to do is raise money. That's all they do. Most of these guys, and girls, not all of them, but the vast majority. That's why oversight of the NCAA is so bad. All they've looked at for 20 years is the bottom line, not the future.
Yeah.
And that's what worries me about the ACC. Are they, we talk about fish bait and revenue. Forward thinking.
Yes.
I do think the ACC doesn't get enough credit for the success it's had lately, but I wonder if that's something it can maintain.
Forward facing, excuse me.
Oh, that's all messaging and the way college athletics works these days, and the SEC running most of national media and the conversation. That's a credit to Greg Sankey. That's a credit to the apparatus that's been built from the SEC media, where they credential 600 people to vote, and Vanderbilt somehow gets 8 first-place votes in the SEC preseason. But my thing is, it all comes around.
Why does that surprise you at this point, though?
What?
Like, that's the least controversial. Like,
no, but what I'm.
I mean, there's always someone who votes for Boston College.
No.
Look around you.
What I'm
this
getting
is not
at,
a media event. Nobody cares anymore. Nobody cares about us. Nobody gives a shit about
Tyler
them.
Hansbrough was not a unanimous player of the year.
Right over there.
Tyler
That's the only
Hansbrough
people
was
they
not
give
a
a shit
unanimous
about.
player.
Those are the only people they give a shit about.
I
Not us.
understand that.
Not us.
I
okay?
understand
so,
that.
You're going to invite Vanderbilt's great grandson and build a freaking railroad through the middle of the SEC and say, hey, look at me. I'm going to vote for Vanderbilt.
My point is
who
that
cares?
they do an amazing job of controlling the conversations, that this league is too smart, and the people who cover the league are too smart to actually get around. You and I, the three of us.
You're saying too smart.
No, dude, the three of us will never sit here and just start parroting the talking points and try to beat our chests about the ACC. We're honest about the ACC.
Sure.
The SEC doesn't have that. The SEC is one big rah-rah cheerleader group. And that's part of the issue where you're right. The success of the ACC has actually been pretty damn good. But all of us are kind of like, that's great, but ... And that's us. And I'm okay with that. I'd rather be honest about situations rather than being cheerleaders like we get out of the SEC.
Who would you rather be, the SEC, the ACC, or the Big Ten?
All right. You're talking to a guy who suggested that the original ACC schools secede and go their other way. Redo a Sedge.
You were that guy.
Redo a Sedge Field. Because here's what I think about college sports, and I think this is the mistake that we make. It's the same thing with the ACC that we've talked about, with NASCAR that we've talked about. When you destroy what people loved about you, there's nothing left to love. And what makes college sports great? What's the one thing that really matters above all else? It's rivalries.
Yeah.
It's who you hate. It's not who you cheer for. So when you break apart Duke and State, or you take apart Texas and Texas, whatever, you take these long-standing rivalries, Maryland and Duke, you get rid of these things, and they're going to get rid of all of them, right? Eventually, we're going to have 2 super conferences. I mean, the idea that UCLA and USC are in a conference with Rutgers and Ohio State instead of Oregon and Arizona, I mean, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So
I guess what I'm asking you, though, is...
Hold on.
The Big Ten hasn't won a national championship in hoops since 2000.
Yeah.
They have an Urban Meyer Stain title in there somewhere.
Yeah.
They still have Jim Harbaugh plugging away in his khakis.
They don't have a... I'm
No,
saying
I'm
in
with
terms
you.
of the ultimate
I'd rather
success,
be the ACC.
because we want to hold the ACC to some sort of standard financially, which I understand. But if you look at the on-court and on-field success, they have more of that.
Yeah. No, I
than the
would
Big
rather...
Ten, despite the revenue gap for all of these years.
Yeah. To your point, and the network head start, all these things.
Yeah.
To your point, and the bigger fan bases and the better bowl
even close.
tie-ins and all that crap.
Yeah.
I would rather have the ACC's success because as a fan, that's what I want. Like we were talking about this over the summer. Nobody roots for conference revenues, right?
No.
Like SEC fans might.
They might.
But would you rather UNC and Duke play in the Final Four,
Which just happened,
or be the Big Ten and have more money in the better network?
I'd rather have that Final Four.
100%.
I'd rather have that.
And to my point, that's what gets lost. And I agree
Yes.
with you, Joe. Like, you chase it, the president, whichever president said it, I want to find out because it's one I actually might respect. They're right. You need enough money to compete. You don't need all the money. And I think when you look at Kevin Warren at the Big Ten, Kevin Warren's philosophy was, who cares about athletes' success, our schools, whatever? We just want all the money. And I think I think the addition of USC and UCLA is going to go down as one of the biggest mistakes in the history of college athletics because it's to paraphrase Jim Phillips, it's going to be so unbelievably bad for the athletes. It's going to be an absolute because
unless they break football off, which I could see happening.
But once it goes to employees, and we'll close the conversation on this. When in 2 to 3 years, when the courts decide, they're students and employees, because I want people to understand that where do you think this revenue is coming from? Why are people watching football at the rate that they're watching football? Why are they watching that Duke Carolina basketball game? Yes, there's laundry involved, but the players are the ones playing the games, and those are the people generating the actual revenue. So the courts are going to see it that way. And I think that's when we'll finally get to football being its own thing. Mike Krzyzewski, college basketball needs to be run like a business. You're the Illinois guy. You can do it much better than me. But
it's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's literally amazing.
So the point is, but Coach K is right in how he talks about where college basketball needs to go. Football's clearly headed in that direction. And this gets back to your old conference idea. Let the ACC in basketball be what it once was, while the football playing schools join whatever super league exists. And that's going to happen in the next 5 years.
Just break football out.
Just break it out.
And put everything else back to a regional competition. Like you said, I want to see NC State play Maryland. I want to see NC State play ECU. I want to see NC State play App State. I want to see Tennessee. Like, I want the irate Giglio Conference with West Virginia. I want every pissed off fan base together